Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, it is your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, representing Mocha's Cafe de Paris. Hope all is well with everybody. Just thought that it was very imperative, y'all, that I did this particular recipe that I have promised and assured all of you. I want to give a big ups to one of my subscribers by the name of Oh My Goddess. She actually commented under my community post, because you know every once in a while I'll go and post over there, and she said I was looking so forward to hearing the topic about black love. And I did prepare that content last week. I put up that notification, and unfortunately I had technical difficulties, so I wasn't able to follow through, which was very unprofessional of me not to at least address why I did not continue with the topic, because it was definitely some people that was really starving for that knowledge, and I definitely felt that it was imperative that I had continued with that content, as I had assured my subscribers that I would. And I fell off the bandwagon, and I definitely could be woman enough to admit that whenever we, as content creators, we put a message out there that is very important that we follow through. We don't disappoint our subscribers, especially those who are looking forward to a good topic and a good message. So definitely, oh my goddess, that is why I'm doing this content, because you did bring this to my attention that you were looking forward to this. So if you were looking forward to this content, I know that most likely many people were. So I apologize to all of you that was looking forward to this black love content that I had basically prepared everybody for, and I didn't follow through with it. But rest assured, I never let my subscribers down, and as always, I'm a woman of my word, and that is why I'm doing this content tonight, even though it is 11:21 on my end, but all is well. I just want to make sure I definitely came through as I assured everybody that I would do. So again, that is what this content is going to be about. This is on tonight's menu at Mocha's Cafe de Paris. We're talking about black love, and does it exist? The reason why I thought it was very imperative for me to do this content is because all of you as subscribers, you have to realize I was in y'all shoes, and I'm still in your shoes, because I am a subscriber. I do subscribe to other people's contents, to other people's channels, and like you, I view so much negativity on the YouTube streets, especially when it comes from our own people, our own kind, which is other black men and black women. And when you hear so much negative publicity on YouTube, especially when it comes to relationships and marriages, with black love and black marriages, it's very discouraging, because let's be honest, there's not too many YouTube content creators that's giving any positive outlook. They're not giving you any type of real positive views as far as black love. It's always just negative things when it comes to black men and black women. We have black female content creators that are always bashing black men, talking about how no good black men are, and there's not enough good black men out there, and all the good black men are taken, and they just want to be with white women, or either they gay or this or that. And then we have our brothers who have a strong fan base, that have a lot of subscribers, and instead of them using their influence and using their platforms to encourage black men to go out there and search for real black women, and motivate them to not give up on black women, you have so many content creators, black male content creators, they're actually discouraging black men who want to be with black women, who want to love black women. And my thing is, if you have a problem as a black man, and you have decided to giving up on black women and black relationships and black love, don't influence those who have not given up on it, who are still seeking it, who still yearn for that. Who are you to rob somebody of still having that desire just because you have given up on black women? Don't influence other black men out there to give up on black women if that's what they truly love. And I tell my sisters the same thing. Do not poison other black women in the community. Stop telling other black women to swirl, step outside of their race. Brothers ain't no good. No, 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 no. You, whatever you went through, whatever negative experiences you have had with black men, don't discourage other sisters out here who still have a love for black men, who still have a desire to want to be with black men, to build families with black men. So it's too much negativity on these YouTube streets, and we have really, as black people, we have tainted and polluted each other's thoughts and desires of wanting to build a black family and a black unity with one another, because again, we're too busy bashing each other, we're too busy dragging each other through the mud. There's too much division in the black community because there's too many black men who got egos, and there's too many black women who got pride and attitudes, and it just needs to stop. But I am here as a prime example to all of my black women and black men out here to let you know from personal experience, this is not something I heard, this is not something I read in the magazine, this is not something I watched in the Tyler Perry movie. I'm here to let you know that black love does exist, and it is out there. Do not let none of these YouTube content creators, these bitter black women, or these scorned black men manipulate you and persuade you into giving up on other black men and black women who want black love just like you seek for black love. So on that note, I just thought it was very imperative that I addressed that and cleared that first. Now, the matter at hand is, does black love exist? And I can, for one, tell you, yes, it does. And the reason why I can speak on this is because I have been married for 19 years. I met my husband when I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old and my husband was 24. And I had gone through a lot of disappointments with black men prior, before meeting my husband. I've met guys prior to meeting him that, had all the qualities of what I considered in my mind, what I was taught, what other black women in the beauty salons taught me, what I heard from my girlfriends in high school taught me. I was given these delusional concept of what the ideal black man was, and I had my heart set on that. And it wasn't just the conversations I had in the nail shop or the beauty shop, or we had in the locker room with other black women who did not know no more than what I knew. Society, the media didn't make it any better. When these reality shows came out, these talk shows came out, and then these magazines and these blogs on social media, had influenced and shaped my mentality of what the ideal black man was supposed to be for me in my eyes. So I went on these fantasies, I went on these delusions that was programmed in my mind from other black women as to what type of black man that I should be seeking. And needless to say, I have failed terribly in that department, because I tried to seek for the black man that I saw in Tyler Perry movies. I tried to seek the black man that I read about in magazines. I tried to seek the black man that I saw in the Hollywood world, these Hollywood relationships. I thought I was a Jada Pinkett trying to get a Will Smith. I thought I was a Pauletta trying to get a Denzel Washington. And, I let all of these fantasies and these unrealistic expectations that society had instilled in me as a black woman as to what to look for. And it really, it damaged me. And unfortunately, it has damaged a lot of black men and a lot of black women, especially black women, because by nature, we as black women, we live off of fantasies, and not just black women, women in general. We watch these novels, we read these romance novels, and we watch these Tyler Perry movies, and we see these reality shows, and these couples that are agreeing to do these reality shows, and we see them living in these big old beautiful homes, and we see them with these 5-6 cars in their driveway, and all of these, again, all these delusional thoughts are being programmed into our minds as to what the perfect, what was taught, what we were taught was the perfect ideal black man. And reality for me was totally different from the fantasy that had been programmed into my mind. And I think to this day, this is the reason why a lot of black women, as well as some black men, this is the reason why a lot of us are tarnished and our thinking is so polluted, because again, we have allowed society to program our thoughts as to what is a good black man and what is a good black woman. And whatever society has instilled in you what's a good black man or good black woman, that may not be a good black man or a good black woman for you. It don't matter what you see in the Tyler Perry movies, what you read in the magazines, 10 ways to find a perfect black man, 10 ways you can tell she's a perfect black woman. That does not mean based on what you read in the magazines, based on what you hear in the strip clubs, wherever you're getting your information from, or whether you got it from Granddaddy Earl, who messed around on your aunt for 10, 15, 20 years, and he's giving you all this old school knowledge about what he feels is the perfect black woman. But yeah, that may be the perfect black woman for him, but that don't mean that's the perfect black woman for you. So basically, at the end of the day, you cannot allow things outside within the world to manipulate you into programming you to make you believe what is the right black man or what is the right black woman, because the world is not going to give you the correct answer, basically. So, moving right along, the reason I stated that is because that's the reason why a lot of us cannot get ahead in life, because we're too busy letting the world influence our outlook on things. And, again, I was one of those women. I had all of these false expectations based on what society told me, and based on what I learned from my friends, and based on what I learned from other bitter women who was not lucky in love. And I've always heard a lot of negativity. Before I met my husband, I was dating, and I already had in my mind, based on what the world and what I learned from people who didn't know no more than I did about love, I was trying to find a specific type of man that I basically considered to be my ideal mate. And needless to say, I had me a list, I had my preferences, I always wanted a man, and those of you who have been following me, I've preached on this a couple of times, my ideal man, my preference at that time, based on my lack of knowledge and lack of understanding, I had my own ideal man in mind. I wanted a man who didn't have children. I wanted a man who was college educated. I wanted a man who came from a really well-off family. I also wanted a man that was tall, well-dressed, A+ credit, had a high-paying profession. I didn't want him in the bracket of being an NFL player, but I definitely wanted to be with a man that I knew could provide and take care of me, and me working would be an option, not an obligation. And that's the type of relationship I wanted. I didn't want a man to where I had to work. I wanted that option of, if I didn't want to work, he would take care of me, and that basically was my mindset, at that time. And I know it sounds a little commercial. It sounds a little ignorant, but that is what my mindset was. That was the type of man I had in mind. And I can honestly say I did come close to that in a lot of ways. And I remember there was this one particular gentleman that I was dating before I met my husband. He was in the military at the time, and he basically had the majority of the credentials that I was looking for. He was in the military, so I knew he had a really good career. Well, promised career, put it at that. And he didn't have any children. and he was a very nice looking guy. And he just basically, you know, I mean, because the truth of the matter is, you're not going to find exactly what you want, but he came pretty close to what I had in mind. So even though throughout the process of the dating, there were things between us to where, you know, as women, I'm sure a real woman, my real ladies out there could feel where I'm coming from. Basically because he had all of the credentials that I had in mind. I didn't really feel a connection, but I was trying to force a connection to be there because, again, he had all the credentials. And my mindset at that time was, even if there was no connection, if a person at least had the credentials, at that time I felt it was my duty to make a connection, being that he had the credentials, not understanding that just because a person has credentials, that don't mean y'all are going to have the connection. But again, you have to keep in mind, I was 17, 18 at the time, thinking this, you know, so I knew the connection wasn't there. And even though I knew he liked me and he cared for me, and I definitely really loved him and cared for him, but I can tell that I was the one really making the effort to try to make things work. And sometimes as women, and even in some cases for you men, but women, we're more prone to doing this mess. When you see a guy's actions are not in alignment with his words, no matter how much you try to force something to be there, you try to force chemistry, you try to force a connection, it's just not there. And I was just determined, but you know, because at this time, I was feeling defeated, you know, because all of my friends around me, everybody had boyfriends, everybody had relationships, you know, and at the time, you know, I'm beating myself down because I'm like, okay, I'm not a bad looking woman, you know, I don't have any children, I don't have no baggage, you know. I felt like in my mind, I was the ideal woman for him, you know, and basically, I found myself doing all the work, and it was kind of like, you know, he was just chugging along, but he really was not putting in all the effort that I needed him to put in. So things became more challenging as the relationship progressed, and it became even more challenging when he got stationed in Virginia. So at this time, again, you know, I'm feeling like I have to make this relationship work. You know, this guy has everything going well for him, and I didn't have no luck in meeting anyone else. You know what I mean? So I just felt like this is what that at the time was the guy that I was destined to be with. So needless to say, when he moved to Virginia, I felt the distance. I felt as I was calling him and reaching out to him, he wasn't calling me as much. He wasn't reaching out to me as much. And I felt the distance. You know, the couple of times we talked, he had all type of excuses for why we couldn't get together, you know, because at this point we had a long distance relationship. Now keep in mind, this was 98, 99. Around the time I graduated from high school, or those was the days. But anyway, you know, I just really had my heart set on making things work with him, and it seemed like no matter how much I had my heart set, the stars just was not in alignment, because you know, he just was moving slow at his promises. And the last straw that broke the camel's back was when we made plans to meet each other in Virginia. Now keep in mind, I don't have no family in Virginia, I don't know anybody in Virginia, so I really want to see him, because again, I was determined I was going to make this relationship work, because in my mind, this was the ideal man for me. He had the credentials, so I was going to force this connection to work, even though I saw the signs, even though I felt the vibe that there was not a connection there. I was going to make it happen. So I remember going to my dad, and I told my dad that I was going to go to Virginia because he was stationed in Newport at the time. So I told my father about it, and my father didn't really care for him, and that should have been the first sign because my dad just didn't like him. My dad is a retired military person, so he just wasn't feeling him because my dad knew how military men were, and not all military men do it, but you know, the majority of them be having girlfriends and wives and stuff in other states. But anyway, my father didn't care for me being with them, and I told my dad that I was going to go to Virginia to visit him. And my dad was like, oh my gosh, you know, he wasn't feeling that. But at the time I was grown, he really couldn't do anything. So he told me, you know, to go ahead and if I'm going to go, to get a round trip ticket. And I'm like, Dad, I don't need no round trip ticket. I already talked to him. He already told me he's going to pay for my way back. You know, I know I'm going to be fine. He said, no, I don't trust that. You need to get you a one-way ticket. A round trip ticket. Don't get no one-way. You don't ever put yourself in a position to depend on no man. I don't care what he says. So again, this is my better judgment. I did what my dad said. I got the round trip ticket. Long story short, got there, was excited to see him, you know, thought things were going to, at this point, bring us closer together. And it did the exact opposite. I got down there, I covered the room the first night. I did my part because trusting him to be my man, I'm my boyfriend. At the time, I trusted that he was going to take care of me and look out for me and, you know, be the boyfriend that he needed to be or whatever, and hold up his end of the deal. So he was supposed to pay for the rest of the room that weekend. We were supposed to go out. You know, we were supposed to like catch up on old times. I mean, because again, it was a long distance relationship. And the trip became an epic fail. He was not able to cover the room the next day because he claimed his mother had paid the bills with the majority of his money because, you know, military guys get paid on the 1st and 15th. He claimed his mom had access to his account and all of that. And, you know, he wasn't able to pay for the room. So, again, I'm trying to force a connection to be there, seeing the signs are not in alignment with the stars, and called my people. Nobody was able to, front me any money because it was such short minute notice, you know, so I couldn't find nobody to cover the room, so we ended up having to leave. And ironically, because you know, he knew he wasn't going to have any more money or whatever the case was, I ended up staying in the barracks with him. And you know, anybody that's in the military, it's a complete no-no. You're not supposed to have a female stay in the barracks. But at that time, we couldn't cover the room another night. And him being a man, you know, at the time, I wasn't thinking, but, you know, I wasn't looking at the fact that this man, he could have borrowed money from one of his homeboys, from one of his co-workers. I mean, if he really cared and wanted to be with me like that, he would have made an effort to make sure we was comfortable and spent time together. And just me being in denial and me really wanting to make things happen and make things work, I overlooked a lot of stuff. So the trip became a disaster. You know, he ended up having to work, knowing that was the weekend we were supposed to be together. So I ended up being in the room in the barracks all day by myself. You know, his roommates was respectable, knowing I was there. They didn't hang around. They just kind of, you know, left until, you know, he came back. And me being a woman that I am, me being nosy, I'm going through photo albums, seeing this dude, got all kind of pictures of females in his photo album. Some of them was rhinoceros looking chicks, and then some of them was really pretty, so I'm feeling some type of way. I'm looking at the dates because by then, you know, there was not so much camera phones and stuff like that. You had actual picture albums. So I see the dates on the bottom of the picture, and it was around the time me and him supposed to be together. So I'm seeing him take pictures and flexing with these broads and stuff. So I confront him when he returned back to the room. He's mad because he's like, why you sleeping through my things and this and that or whatever. So it just became a hot mess. He couldn't afford to pay for me to go home. So fortunately, I did what my dad said, and I paid for a round trip. So what I had to do was I had to find a train that was going to come into Newport News so I can go ahead the next day and leave out of there because everything was a disaster. I can't remember all the details because it was so long ago, but it was a hot mess. He wasn't the stand up dude I thought he would be. He disappointed me. I went all out my way to try to be there for him and with him, and it just turned out a total fluke. So what ended up happening was I called my dad, without going into too many details, but my dad put the pieces of the puzzle together. He knew that dude had disappointed me, and I could tell my dad was very upset, but he wanted to stay calm. I could tell he was staying calm because he wanted me to just get on that train and hurry up and bring my ass home. So of course, I just remember that last little hug me and him had, and it was an empty hug. I could tell at that point me and him had pretty much given up on each other. And his homeboy had to drive me to the train station. He couldn't even be a real boyfriend at the time, and at least bring me to the station and make sure that I was straight or whatever, because he had duty and of course he couldn't leave. So I just remember being really heartbroken, because I just really thought that there was something there, and there just wasn't. So for a long time, it took me a while to recover from that. And I remember getting off at the train station. My dad was there, and I can tell my dad, he really felt bad that that guy had disappointed me. And instead of my dad scolding me at the time, like, I told you he wasn't no good, I told you he was a loser, see, this is why I told you, you better have got a round trip ticket. He didn't do that because my dad knew I was already down. He knew my spirits was low. So he didn't pour water on me. He knew I was drowning at that time, and he knew I was in a really bad place, and I was heartbroken. And so all my dad did, he was very supportive, and he just was like, I'm glad you made it back, but I'm sure the dad in him, if his foot could have reached all the way in dude's ass, all the way in Virginia, he would have stumped the devil out of him. Because I knew my dad, he felt some type of way. You looked at it like the guy didn't protect me as his daughter. He didn't look out for me as his daughter. So my dad already didn't like him. So that just finished putting the worst taste in my dad's mouth at the time. So of course things ended at that point. I knew it was dead. So, needless to say, it took me some time to get past that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the kind of person, when relationships don't work out, I don't jump into the next dude's arms right away. It takes me some time to recover. I have to heal. Everybody deals with their heartbreaks differently, and I've always been one. I don't get over a man by getting up under another one. No, I got to heal. I got to mentally and emotionally get myself together. So it took me some time, and basically being in Connecticut, I went through a rough period when I was rebellion with my parents, with my dad, you know how that go and everything. So I ended up having to come back to to Savannah, which is where I lived. It's my hometown. It's where I was born and raised. So against my better judgment, I ended up coming back to Savannah, and it was a new start. I was able to start all over and do a clean slate. I moved back with my mom, and I wasn't looking for love, because I learned at that time I was looking so hard and being so desperate and being so thirsty. I was just determined to have a man in my life, because again, I was letting other people around me influence me into wanting to hurt and get somebody, and I just really felt I was at a very dark moment where I was really feeling lonely, and I just really wanted a companion. So this time I just knew I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put myself in thirst mode. I'm just going to have fun. And that's what happened. I just decided to have fun. I wasn't putting all these realistic expectations into looking for the right man or looking for a relationship. I just said, I'm going to chill. I'm going to just kick back. And that's basically what I did. So when I got here, I just kind of had to get my life in order a little bit. I had to kind of start all over and get me a job and, try to rebuild myself and get myself together. So I was going out and hanging out with girlfriends and stuff, just enjoying life, and sure enough, I decided to go to the club one night. And, going out with my mom's girlfriend at the time. She said, girl, let's just go out. You a little down. You need to go out and have a good time and everything. So keep in mind, I met like 2-3 different guys when I came here. And, it wasn't nothing deep. Just exchange numbers, just looking for a friendship type of thing. So I'm at the club. And I remember just being to the bar and ordering little drinks and stuff like that. And I remember this man and his homeboy, his guy friend, was at the bar, and I just remember his friend was a little bit more of the aggressor. I can tell he initially was trying to talk to me first. But his friend kind of cock block, you know how you dudes do sometimes or whatever. And he was like, his friend was, dude, the aggressive dude was like, so where you from? You can't be from here, I don't never seen you here, I usually see the same faces where I'm from. Connecticut, I just moved down here, blah, blah, blah. Small talk, okay, blah, 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 this and that, whatever, whatever. So, we talking, we chatting, and his homeboy with him. So I'm talking to both of them, but I'm really talking to the dude that's the aggressor or whatever. So, what ended up happening was, we on a dance floor, we dancing, we having a good time. I ended up dancing with his friends. So, we just kicking back and we just chilling, whatever. So, long story short, I remember I gave the aggressive dude my number, towards that as the club was getting ready to close. And what ended up happening was I think like a couple of days later, that is when I heard from the guy. And for some strange reason, I don't know why the aggressive guy didn't call me, but his friend that was a little bit more laid back, a little bit more chilled, he called me. And he was like, yeah, I got your number from my boy, blah, 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 from my boy, Duran, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, how is it Duran? That's my number, but you ended up, I'm like, okay, it's whatever. It's not that deep for me. I'm just chilling anyway. So anyway, he reached out to me and we talked and had a little small conversation here and there. And he kept trying to push for a date and I just was not emotionally feeling it. And honestly, he just wasn't my type. And, the thing about it is, he was a nice looking guy, but he just was not my type. He just wasn't super tall and he was a handsome guy. But me at the time, I was still recovering from a heartache. So honestly, I was going to look for a reason to find anything wrong with anybody anyway, because I was at a bitter space, so, but anyway, he just kept kind of reaching out to me. He called me a couple of times and, what you doing tonight? What you doing this weekend? I like to take you out. You want to catch a movie? I'm like, no, I got stuff to do. I got to do my hair. I got to do this. I got to do that. So, I mean, God kept, running me down for a while. Now, I just kept putting them off, and one weekend I got bored and he just so happened called me during the bored weekend and was like, hey, because he was living in Carolina at the time. And he was like, well, I'm coming in town and I was wondering if you want to go out this weekend, you want to catch a movie, you want to go out to dinner or something like that. And at the time I was bored. That's the only reason why I accepted. I said, okay, all right, I guess. So sure enough, he came. And he pulled up, and I'll never forget, he pulled up in this Astro van. I'm thinking this guy gonna pull up in like a 2-seater or pull up in like, a sports car or something. This dude pull up in an Astro van, okay, like a soccer dad van, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, and I remember when he got out the van, he was this really, really good looking guy. And I didn't realize how handsome he was. I guess that night when I saw him, I was going through one of my bitter black woman moments. I wasn't really paying no attention to him. And this time, I just really noticed him. I noticed how nice looking and handsome he was. And when he approached me, I was staying with my mom at the time, and we were staying in an apartment upstairs. So I'm peeping through the window, and I saw when he pulled up, and I see him getting out the car with flowers in his hand, and I'm like, okay, this is strange. So he comes up the stairs and he knocks on the door. My mom opens the door, and then my mom greeted him and said, hi, how you doing? He said, hi, how you doing, ma'am? He was very polite to my mother. And of course, he gave me some flowers, a little bouquet. And my mom was like, well, check him out. He already scoring brownie points with me. So I'm like, wow, so it's just crazy when you've been mistreated for so long. When somebody does something so simple, it can mean a lot. I couldn't remember the last time when I had got some flowers and everything. So I'm like, okay, I ain't really looking for nothing, but so far you doing pretty good. So we went out, had a good conversation and everything. So what ended up happening was over time we ended up really officially dating. each other. It just kind of happened. I didn't have to force it like I did with the guy before. It just was natural. So at the time, he knew I was struggling. I just came from from Connecticut, and I moved back home with my mom. I was down on my luck. I didn't have no car. I didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And he was really compassionate about my situation. You know, I was staying back with my mom, and my mom was a single mom struggling at the time, and I was in process of looking for a job because I knew I couldn't just stay with my mom, live with her, you know, for free and live off of her and not contribute. So I'm looking for a job. I'm trying to get it together, you know, struggling. But what ended up happening was over the time we kept, I guess by then, the relationship had progressed to the point to where I kind of had lost my focus on trying to live for me and do things, get myself together. We just kept going out. We just kept spending a lot of time together, and we ended up bonding to the point to where at the time there was no cell phones and stuff like that like we had now. So he gave me a calling card because I had no way of calling him. He gave me a calling card so that way I can call him as much as I needed to without having to spend no money and without having to go to the payphone. So we just really bonded. And what happened was he had just got out of a divorce himself. So that kind of shook me up because he told me he had 2 daughters from a previous relationship, previous marriage. He was in the process of a divorce, and his daughters was 2 and 3 years old at the time. So I'm like, oh, hell no. I ain't looking forward to dealing with this. This dude got kids. He barely out of his marriage. You know, I knew him and the wife wasn't together. She moved out. She moved on, but there was no paperwork, anything officially signed. So that deal had not been sealed. So I'm already feeling some type of way. But despite his current situation, the fact that he was just such a good guy, and was a good listener, and the fact that I can really be myself around him. I didn't have to fake. I didn't have to be phony. I was really just able to be myself. And that's what I enjoyed the most, is that I didn't have to pretend to be something I wasn't not. And we just naturally clicked. And what ended up happening was me and my mom started bumping heads and stuff. You know how it is when 2 women are under the same roof. We started bumping heads, got into an argument. We just didn't see eye to eye. You know, she felt like once I met him, I lost my focus and I wasn't looking for a job, and I honestly wasn't. You know, I had allowed my relationship with him to just sidetrack me. And that caused a lot of problems. So she basically got upset with me and told me, you know, I need to get out her house. You know, you can't get your shit together here. You need to leave. You got to go, blah, blah, blah. So me being hard-headed, me being stubborn at the time, you know, I'm like, shit, okay, that's what you want, blah, blah, blah. So I remember at the time, you know, I called him. I told him what was going on with me and my moms and stuff. And he dropped everything. He came and got me. He came and picked me up, and he brought me to his house and everything. And you know, I went from spending a couple of nights there to eventually, you know, he offered for me to stay with him. He said, well, you can stay here with me, you know, I pay the bills, I got you, you don't have to worry about this, and that, and the third. And that's what ended up happening. Once I moved in with him, the relationship just went fast and went fast from there. And we ended up we had a relationship, you know, and my daughter came like a year later. So things was on full speed, you know. I wouldn't recommend women to do that today. I just was blessed and fortunate. But it just took off. Our relationship took off. And needless to say, you know, over time, we got married, and that's the man who I'm with now, you know, and that's what ended up happening. So who I never thought, the guy that I met at the club, his friend would be the one that I would end up marrying. And that's what that's what happened. Voila, 19 years later. It's a long story, you know. I don't want to bore everybody with every single goddamn detail, but you get the picture. So that's what made me fall for him. He was just so different from the other guys that I picked up. But the catch-22 was that he was not situated like I had in mind. And that's the reason why a lot of black men and black women, we miss out on love, because we want people to come to us. We want people to come in our lives a certain way. We want people to come into our lives well established. We don't want nobody that's struggling. We don't want nobody that's going through a hard time. And trust me when I say I totally get it. But at the same time, you can meet someone who has their shit in order, who has their life in order, but there's no chemistry. And because that's what had happened to me. And I think that is the reason why God allowed me to go through what I went through with the first situation, to show me, hey, this just goes to show, even though you had in mind what kind of man you wanted, what kind of life you wanted, that didn't mean that was meant for you. And the main thing you didn't have in mind, the main thing you didn't expect, that was the very thing that ended up working out for me. I didn't want a man with children. And again, I had a man who didn't have children, but there was no connection. There was no chemistry. And just so happened, the man that I ended up really connecting with mentally, spiritually, and emotionally was a man I just so happened had children from a previous relationship. And I will not lie to you and say it wasn't easy. It took a lot of years, and it took a lot of time. But what a lot of people don't understand is things, no matter how it is at the current time, things change over time. In the beginning, things may seem intense. In the beginning, things may seem out of order, and it may seem like it's a never-ending story. But you can't throw in the towel, and you just can't count things out right away just because it's not set up like you had in mind. Because had I had that attitude, I would have missed out. Because again, you know, even though there was a lot of challenges, I had to go through the baby mama drama, but eventually things ended up working themselves out. You know, the kids became older, you know, the dynamics changed. We no longer had the issues that we had in the beginning, because a relationship is full of changes. Nothing ever stays the same, which is a blessing. So just because you meet somebody during a very rough patch in their life, that don't mean they're going to always stay there. But at the same time, you do have to have discretion, because sometimes people will meet you during a rough season, and as soon as you help them to clean themselves up and you help them to get their life back in order, now they don't have a purpose for you. Now they want to leave you and upgrade and be with somebody else. So again, this is one of those things. There's not a black or white answer, and I'm not going to set none of you ladies or men up and tell you this is 10 ways how you can get the perfect relationship or the perfect marriage. It don't work like that. It's not a black and white answer. Looking for the best potential mate is a case by case type scenario. It's going to be situations in which it's going to work, and it's going to be situations in which it's not going to work. You have to have discretion. You have to know, okay, even though this person is in a struggle, they seem like they not looking for me to be the cleanup person, but they look like, you know, somebody that can possibly try to help them, and no, I'm not going to get used, I'm not going to get played in the end. Or, okay, maybe this person got all this stuff together and they're not in the struggle, but at the same time, there's no chemistry, there's no connection. Because keep in mind, even the most perfect man or the most perfect woman, and we know there's no such thing, they're going to have some type of issues. And the problem is, with these YouTube streets, we have polluted each other as black men and black women. We have degraded each other. We have put each other down, which is why we're not seeking one another as far as for love. As black men and as black women, we both have failed one another. Both of us have. Failure is just not on the behalf of bitter black women, and failure is just not on the behalf of scorned black men. Black men and black women, we have failed in respecting one another and also in protecting one another. And this is the reason why so many of us are discouraged in pursuing black love. And the reason for that is because there's so much negative perceptions coming from these YouTube content creators, and it has unfortunately left a negative impact for those of us who are trying to seek black love, who are pursuing black love. So with that being said, I am going to do a 4-part series. If I need to extend it, I'll extend it some more depending on how much needs to be covered. I'm going to be doing a 4-part 4-part Black Love Chronicles series where I'm going to be breaking down all of the elements concerning Black love, looking for love, marriage, family, building a foundation. Once I connect all the dots and put all the pieces together, I will figure out how I'm going to break each element down, and I'm going to speak on the parts that need to be addressed the most. I'm going to address the issues that are the most significant within the Black community, especially when it comes to Black men and Black women, connecting, building a connection, building a family foundation. So I'm going to speak on all of these elements. So I just wanted to give you guys a presentation of what's to come. So I'm going to save that for part 2. Part 2 is going to be Black Chronicles. Love is where you least expect. And it's very imperative that people realize that love is not going to come the way you expect it. Love is not going to come when you expect it. So on that note, be prepared and look out for Black Chronicles Part 2. And for the rest of the week, I'm going to be doing a lot of series on Black Love Chronicles, okay? So just keep in mind that it's the topic that I'm going to be focusing on throughout the rest of the week. And if I have to extend it into the following week, I'll do so. However, you know, this topic, however, whatever means or adjustments I need to make, I will do so accordingly. So on that note, get ready. Stay tuned for Black Love Chronicles, the series, and I'll be chatting with all of y'all very soon. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these series, okay? I will talk to y'all soon. Love you guys, and again, I thank y'all and I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, and I shall see y'all again shortly, God willing. Take care.